Yes, everybody, get hyped because we are here back with another edition of the IM6 MI6 Sports Network free agency spectacle here tonight. This is our day two version of the show. We did day one, part one yesterday morning. Then we went day one, part two yesterday for after a crazy day in the NFL. And day two did not disappoint. Another crazy day in free agency. I'm joined with my guys, James Gonzalez, along with Ben Cruz, and also we have John Alcorn, who is here tonight after a long hiatus from the programs. I'll start off with James. How are you doing tonight, James? And James, you don't have to worry because the Justin Fields bomb that you were afraid was going to happen today did not indeed happen, so you're safe for now. But how are you doing tonight, my friend?
There's always the next, 20 days plus. So I'm worried about that.
Yeah, we had a great reaction from you yesterday regarding the Gardner Minshew signing. I know, James, you flipped off during the show. It was absolutely hilarious to watch. Ben, Patriots making a lot of big signings today here in free agency. It's been a great day for you with Celtics beating the Jazz and making me look like a fool. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, Isaiah. Got a lot of time off from work today and tomorrow, so I'll definitely enjoy that of the last couple of days of free agency here. The Patriots obviously today, they're obviously busy. I mean, not I don't think splashy per se, like I was expecting, but I think that they're just doing right moves right now. I think Elliott Will's really handling the offseason really well, and obviously. I won't go into every single move right now, but kind of a couple that really stood out to me. Obviously they brought back Josh Uche, which I was kind of surprised about. I thought he pretty much was all but gone, but he took a hometown discount for very cheap, and that's obviously massive. He can kind of get back to his old self a couple of years ago, where he I believe had 10 to 12 sacks. And you paired him up with Matt Judon. I wouldn't be opposed to obviously them getting another edge rusher as well, though, too. That'd be great. But of course, the biggest thing today was the pursuit of Calvin Ridley. Right now, Austin and Jags, I think our chances right now are pretty much slim to none, just because they essentially can get a draft pick back from, I believe, Atlanta after 4 p.m. tomorrow. So I'm holding glimmer of hope. I'm not obviously having my my high expectations right now for him. But definitely, hopefully tomorrow we get an offensive tackle. I know Tyron Smith's kind of been named to watch out for us. So yeah, I mean, it should be really exciting the next 24 hours. So the Patriots, of course, been really busy. They also brought in James's old friend Austin Hooper to be tight end 2. They moved on from Mike Gesicki to the Bengals, John's Bengals, as well as Pharaoh Brown, who was a pretty good blocking tight end, which is one thing I think specifically, unfortunately, Austin Hooper does not do great at. So I do think maybe via draft, maybe get somebody in the draft for a good tight end that's good at run blocking. But I can't really complain. Like I said, yesterday, it did a lot of good things overall, and just hasn't been too flashy so far. But I still think that there's another day to think about. I think everybody's kind of thinking the first day is the first full day of free agency, which is more of tampering day. But you obviously had the first kind of full day of free agency, and then of course tomorrow is the last day until 4 p.m.
Yeah, definitely. Was a crazy exciting day yesterday. Today definitely also lived up to the hype. I want to go to my other co-host for the night, and that is Mr. John Alcorn. He hasn't been on in quite so long. We don't know why. Maybe he's been hiding because the Bengals have been irrelevant. But John, how are you doing tonight?
The hell?
The only thing relevant is your takes. So we'll go here and there. We're good. Happy to be on the show. Um, but obviously, as usual, every single year during free agency, I'm so damn pissed about my stupid ass Bengals. I don't know what they think they're doing. They're going the opposite direction, but that's another topic for another day.
All right, and before I give the floor to James to introduce all of our great topics that we have tonight, we're going to be breaking down a lot of the big signings that happened today. Just like yesterday, if there's any breaking news that comes up, feel free to, bend your signal. Feel free to put in the private chat. And even the folks out there, if you guys have any breaking news, just put breaking news in the comments section, and we will play our lovely breaking news intro video, and we'll have that on the air and get some reactions to the program. So make sure you guys do that. But before I give the floor to James, there is one video I do want to put out there to segue us into our free agency talk. Let me just say this. Free agency day 2 has come and gone, and the 49ers again sign another defensive lineman, a position that they don't need. They don't need defensive linemen. We have an embarrassment of riches at the defensive line position. Yet somehow, some way, we just keep signing them. I don't understand the logic behind this acquisition. It makes no sense whatsoever. John Lynch, let me speak directly to you right now. Let me speak directly to you. What are you doing? You gotta wake up, my man. Drink a cup of coffee. Drink 2 cups of coffee. You gotta get your brain in order, man. Wake up. What are you doing, man? Our problem last year was not the defensive line. Our problem is offensive line. We couldn't block Brock Purdy to save our lives. If we had just given Brock Purdy couple extra seconds to throw the football in the Super Bowl, we win the Super Bowl. We'd be sitting here right now as Super Bowl champions. If Chris Jones does not come unblocked, if we someone just put a body on him, the 49ers are right here sitting today as Super Bowl champions. What are we doing? Have you not learned your lesson? Offensive line. Where is the offensive lineman? There's been so many guys that have signed already. I don't care about fit in the scheme of Kyle Shanahan. Get me the best offensive line to protect my quarterback, to protect our franchise quarterback. We don't want him to get hurt. We want to win, and we need to protect him. Go get 3 offensive linemen. Trent Williams, he can stay. McKivitz, get the hell out of here, man. Other guys, Banks, he can stay. Burford, replace him. Feliciano, replace him, man. Get me at least 3 offensive linemen. I'm tired of this defense. We do this every year. We prioritize the defensive line. And then the positions where we absolutely have to prioritize, because we keep getting burned there, the offensive line and the secondary, we never, ever do it. We do this every offseason. And guess what? It comes back to bite us in the ass every single time in a big game, man. We got to learn our lesson, John Lynch. Come on, wake the hell up, man. Wake the hell up, man. Tyrone Smith is available. Brian Allen is available. Laken Tomlinson is available, man. Go get these offensive linemen. There's a bunch of offensive linemen that are out there. Just go get them. Just bring them in. They would be an instant upgrade over the guys that we have right now. I mean, McKivitz, that guy led the league in giving up sacks. He gets pushed around anytime. Freaking Barbie could push that guy around, dude. We need another right tackle. We need more offensive line. I don't care about defensive linemen. Get me the offensive line. Fix that. For all the folks out there that wanted folks out there that wanted my thoughts on the 49ers signing, there you are, disgusted with the Niners. But James, the floor is yours. Take it away, my friend.
Thank God. Hello, everybody. Welcome to NFL Free Agent Spectacle Day 2 edition, where we recap what the hell went on today. And there's a lot that went on, but it was kind of tamed. It was a tame Tuesday after a manic Monday. So let's start off with the free agent frenzy here. Derrick Henry, who I think I had this right. He signs with the Ravens. It's a 2-year deal. I think $20 million right there.
16 mil, I think 20 total.
Ah, okay. Incentives to 20. That's going to be fun. I think it really helps, and it helps Lamar not have to run so much. So I do like that. Since John is here, and he hasn't been here in a while, let's start off with John. What do you like about this Derrick Henry signing by Baltimore?
Well, it's wonderful. I think it's great. It's a great fit. But it still doesn't address the other problems. I love what they did with this addition. Lamar is a really great quarterback. But to me, the difference between him and a guy like Stroud and others is him still in the pocket. I don't trust. You can get Derrick Henry and veteran running back. You can get those great receivers. You drafted a guy the year before. You had Odell. But again, your offensive line needs to protect more. You lose veteran defensive pieces, one to the Steelers to a 2 to 3 year deal. So getting Derrick Henry is great. It's like having extra icing on the cake, but still doesn't address the foundation. And the foundation is their offensive line. Lamar Jackson, I don't truly trust in the pocket. In deep moments, he's shown it time and time again. I don't know how many more times you have to show it. Comes up short, wins the MVP award. It's a good signing, but I think Derrick Henry, to me, in terms of winning and impact, would have had a much better fit in Houston.
All right, so I read here it will be $9 million fully guaranteed in the first season. Again, the max value of $20 million. Let me go to Ben on this. How much impact do you think Derrick Henry will have on the Ravens being there, and then on the division? It's just getting tougher and tougher. How do you think he'll fit into the AFC North?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I picked this as a destination for him. A couple days ago before free agency. I do agree with John. As much as I do love Lamar, you could put all the pieces around. Specifically stars, specific talent. It doesn't matter if you can't protect and you just don't have that specific finished product. And we have not seen that with Lamar yet, where it matters most time and time again, especially previous example against the Chiefs in the AFC title game. He had countless opportunities, especially in that second half where the Ravens really did not take advantage of some of their opportunities because the Chiefs, I don't believe, scored once in that second half. And we could be talking about something different than not, but in terms of the overall fit, I love it. I think that it takes a lot off of Lamar Jackson's shoulders to run the football. And no offense to Gus Edwards or Justice Hill, but Derrick Henry is just another animal. I still think there's a lot left in the tank with him. The only thing about Henry is he's not a guy that will catch the ball out of the backfield. So maybe they'll go there, get somebody tomorrow, maybe a third down back, or get somebody in the draft. But in terms of short yardage and stuff like that, I think that this Ravens team is going to be great. I do agree with John in terms of offensive lines. I think up and down, so that obviously is massive to think. That's why I think a lot of people are maybe speculating Dallas, but I do like it there. I think the contour was pretty good. So, yeah, I like the fit overall. Can't complain. And it obviously just makes the Ravens a bigger force in the AFC.
Isaiah, I love this move because I know you wanted Derrick Henry in a dream scenario, and now obviously he's not going to come to the San Francisco 49ers, thank God. How heartbreaking do you make this feel for you? And then how do you think, will the Ravens finally get over the top with this move? Or just like John, do you see them still not getting over the hump?
As a Niner fan, I am sad that he didn't come to San Fran because I was dreaming about CMC and King Henry running together. It would have been perfect. But in terms of this move, I'm surprised he went to the Ravens because I thought he was going to go to Dallas, to be honest. I thought that, like, Dallas losing Tony Pollard, that meant that they had something up their sleeve, but obviously not. And King Henry going there. You look at Lamar Jackson, his running ability, Derrick Henry. I think it's an upgrade because Gus Edwards, I'm glad that they didn't bring him back because he was coming off a horrific injury. And then the other running back that they had, I mean, he was decent. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't like a game-changing player. Derrick Henry's a power back. He's got a lot of miles, though, on his legs. I think that for Derrick Henry, their offensive line is pretty good, so he'll be able to be productive. I think he'll be able to ball out. But the Ravens, their issues was not running back. I think they had more issues other than running back that they needed to address. So it's a good move by Baltimore, and for King Henry, definitely. Him going there, it's good for him because he gets a chance to win because you're not winning anytime soon in Tennessee. But for Baltimore, it's not their issues are other than running back. It's like what I said about the Niners. It's not defensive line, it's other issues. So I do like the move. I think he's going to be great in Baltimore. And for Lamar Jackson, it's going to be good for their offense because they love to run the football. They'll be able to run the football a lot more now, but they have more issues than just running back.
So speaking of this crazy AFC North, Patrick Queen, the linebacker, former Raven, goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers on a 3-year, $41 million deal. Man, I didn't see this coming, but I think he fits so well with the Steelers. He goes from one tough team to another that scares you. So I really, really like this move for Patrick Queen. Let's go with Isaiah with this. Let's go opposite way. How do you think he'll fit in with the Steelers? You know, they needed help there with the linebacking corps. They haven't really had a good one price since Ryan Shazier. You know, they really haven't had anyone to really shore up that linebacking corps. So, man, how do you think this will work, Isaiah?
You guys are going to call me crazy for this take, but I think that with their moves that they have made, the Pittsburgh Steelers, fellas, have jumped into the Super Bowl conversation with the Kansas City Chiefs and other teams like that. That defense is going to carry them to the AFC Championship. TJ Watt, Patrick Queen, Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. I mean, that defense is loaded. That defense is so freaking good that they might average just 10 points given up per game. I mean, that's how great that defense is. Patrick Queen is a steal. I don't want to, no pun intended, but that is a steal for the Steelers because, number one, you weaken your division rival, which is huge, and Patrick Queen is a very, very productive player, and he's a young player too, which you can build your defense around. So I love this move. Plus, you finally have a quarterback in Russell Wilson, and he's way better than Kenny Pickett or Mitchell Trubisky or I don't even know the other guy's name. That's how irrelevant that guy is, sadly.
Trubisky's with the Bills.
Yeah, Trubisky's with the Bills. They had Kenny Pickett, and then there was one more guy, right?
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph, that's right, Mason Rudolph. And I watched him play. I mean, the guy, he was all right, but he wasn't like a world beater for sure. But here's the thing. Russell Wilson threw 26 touchdowns last year and 6 interceptions. He was a good quarterback last year. People forget that. He was a good game manager. That's what Pittsburgh needed. Pittsburgh needed a guy that can be productive, not going to turn the football over. You have the weapons with Najee Harris there running the football. So Russ, you don't have to rely on him to make those game-changing plays. Russ is in a situation where it's like the beginning of his career, where he's in Seattle, he's with a loaded defense, he's got a great running back in Najee Harris, he's got weapons on the outside that he can throw the football to when needed. This is perfect for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Pittsburgh made the playoffs last year despite having one of the worst quarterback plays I've ever seen in my entire life. Now they get Russell Wilson, now they get Patrick Queen. Oh, boy, man, it's about to go down there in Pittsburgh. And, I mean, that division, you're right, it's loaded with Baltimore, but Baltimore's got a lot of issues outside the running back. They've lost a lot of players on defense. The Bengals, John discussed it with their moves. Joe Mixon is now a Texan. They signed Zach Moss, which I think is a downgrade. I think they lost a couple of defensive players as well. They have an offensive lineman, a top offensive lineman that is a free agent. The Browns, you can't rely on Deshaun Watson. I mean, that guy, he has shown that when you're out of the league for a year, that it just takes a toll on you and you're never the same, just like Le'Veon Bell. And he just doesn't look effective anymore, and he looks scared to throw the football. I know they got Judy, they got Amari Cooper, but it's all about Deshaun Watson. He just doesn't have that confidence anymore. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, man, they are having one hell of an offseason. They got a lot of draft picks as well, and watch out, Kansas City. Watch out, Buffalo, because Pittsburgh is coming.
Okay, no. Ben, what do you see about Patrick Queen going in division to the rival Baltimore, from the Ravens to the Steelers? Do you agree with Isaiah that somehow the Steelers are somehow better off of these two moves?
I mean, I would say that they're better. I wouldn't go too far in terms of the fact of them going with Kansas City and Buffalo Steelers. That's just too much of a stretch. But I will say that they've definitely needed two things of address: quarterback and an inside linebacker. And they did that. I mean, I think Russell Wilson right now specifically is an upgrade of what they have. And that's obviously why I had Russell Wilson before tampering free agency of him going to Pittsburgh, because I think he has an opportunity to go there. And like Isaiah mentioned, what I do agree with him was I didn't think that as Russell Wilson wasn't that bad last year. It was just on terms of some of the scheme. He didn't throw for a lot of touchdowns, but he was throwing for decent passing yards. He was just managing the game specifically, and their defense last year in the first half was awful. And so essentially he was kind of being banked on essentially in terms of just going crazy scoring points, and just never happened, came to fruition. And then Quinn obviously is a monster. I love that, just kind of that bulldog gritty defensive kind of stuff that Pittsburgh has, and I think it really fits that mold. So I think that obviously with Mike Tomlin there, that Pittsburgh team last year wasn't very good, and they somehow made the playoffs. So you add this guy there, you got Russ in there. I think they'll be good. I think when you look at Baltimore, with Cincy and stuff like that, I'd be curious to see in terms of what happens with Higgins, because I think that's a massive kind of outlook in terms of how you look at that team. I still think Cincy will be good as long as Joe Burrow stays healthy. They'll probably be like my third pick in the AFC North. So I think they'll be probably behind Cincy and Baltimore. But I think they did get better. But I can't go too far into what Isaiah was mentioning in terms of like Super Bowl aspirations, and then I'm going with the top of the AFC dogs. I just can't do that.
Yeah, I think even the Yinzers won't go that far. John, what do you think about this move for Patrick Queen? How more deadly does it make that Steeler defense to you? And how do you think this Steeler team will do against your division, the Bengals? How do you think they'll do now with the moves they made?
Nothing. Because this is just like what Isaiah said about his Niners and what we said about the Ravens. The issue isn't their defense, is their offense has been garbage for years, and people keep saying, Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. Oh my gosh. Eventually, you need to freaking change. You really think Russell Wilson's going to solve all that? One of your pieces on the offense is gone. Dante Johnson is gone. Yes, the Steelers can produce receivers in the draft, and they'll be just fine. You really think that a Russell Wilson, who really take away that Legion of Boom, half of that Legion of Boom defense, would we even talk about it? You really think he's going to lead over a healthy Joe Burrow, over a Lamar Jackson, over the defense in Cleveland, and Deshaun Watson can stay healthy and stop being a pervert? Like, you really think that it's not going to make a difference? The defense is fine. TJ Watt come back healthy, they'll be fine. It's the offense yet again. What is their offense going to be consistent? You think Russell Wilson all of a sudden is going to turn into 2012, 2013, 2014? No, shut up, phone. But losing Dante Johnson is a huge hit. And I think unless you address that early on in the draft, you're the same team that in the next year or so is going to have to pay Najee Harris. You shouldn't have drafted him that high. You're essentially saying, yeah, you get Russell Wilson on the one-year deal. What happens is, yeah, it's great. Let's say he has some success. They have a winning record but missed the playoffs yet again. What are you going to do with Kenny Pickett? Because then you're essentially saying at that point, he was a bust and we were wrong. And we're still talking about, Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. Eventually, you need to look away from that and look what they really need to do. Defense is not their problem. They need to work on the offense. I don't trust Wilson. He's not going to be better than a healthy Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson.
Another thing too, John,
Super Bowl, Isaiah? Okay, Alaska Airlines, you need to drug test him tomorrow, because that is just insane.
Another thing too, to piggyback off John real quick, is they brought in Arthur Smith, and you look what Arthur Smith did last year with the Falcons. I don't know specifically he's just not made to be a coordinator, but he was awful last year as an overall coach. And I just don't know specifically, like you mentioned, does that offense really change when you bring essentially a guy that just got fired, and then you bring in Russell Wilson that essentially is off the back half of his career, where it's just like, what do you kind of have left in him? And then you move on from Diontae Johnson, essentially you're probably your best receiver, outside of course, his fumbling, his drops, but still, that's the biggest thing in terms of why they're not going to be up the top with the teams like the Bengals and the Ravens when healthy, which is not going to happen.
So coming in with a struggling veteran quarterback, my last point, I promise, with a guy who hasn't really been the same since, a guy who in Atlanta chose Desmond Ridder over Lamar Jackson, tells me he doesn't know lickety split about quarterback talent. And somehow that's going to fire up this Steelers team. No, because if their defense is not but a problem, but Najee Harris is inconsistent all the time. I don't trust him. I don't think this team's going to do half what they should probably do.
Yeah, I was one of the advocates for the Falcons going after Lamar Jackson. I thought that would have been Vic 2.0, but that didn't happen. All right. So speaking of in divisional moves, the Vikings are signing free agent running back, former Packer running back Aaron Jones to 1 year, $7 million deal. Now this is after Jones couldn't agree with the Packers on a redone deal, and we see a move in the division that you don't really see, and it almost feels like not the end of his career, but it's getting there. With the injury issues, he did come up really well at the end of the year, but the Packers went out and got Josh Jacobs, of course, yesterday. So I'll start off with you. Let's go with John here. What does this deal mean for Jones? It's a prove-it year. Do you think he has enough left? How's he going to fit into this Viking offense?
I want to look at the stats real quick before I say anything insane. Like another co-host here won't say who because I'm not going to make personal attacks like Skip Bayless. Because also they're about to lose they're actually about to cut out their undisputed tape. But back to here. To me, I don't think he has a lot to prove because I don't really think there's a lot of expectations for him this year. You go to a team, I lose what you said, Minnesota.
Mhm.
To a team that is rebuilding. You don't want to admit it because the only team in that division that's truly contending is the Lions. They're back. That's their division to lose. You have what, Sam Darnold? You still have a all-pro Pro Bowl receiver who hasn't got unpaid. And I think we know for a fact that you couldn't pay both Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson because he's not going to take a better minimum deal or franchise tag. He has nothing else left to prove because really the fact is, how many expectations do we really have for him? Not just in the media, but in the organization and on the field. We talk, oh, Aaron Jones needs to do this, or Aaron Jones needs to do that. We talk about guys need to prove something, like you're this close to 10,000 yards, or you need to improve in your juking ability. But he's just, it doesn't matter. Like they're in a team that's in rebuild mode, and he's not going to get that fat contract that he probably thought he wanted. I think last year he had 656 yards. Like, there's not much to prove. He's a decent running back, but he's just like Saquon. I mean, I'm sorry. He's not that talented, but won't matter. Oh, you son of a gun, Isaiah. Really? I just saw. Sorry. But it won't make a difference because the Vikings are in rebuild mode.
All right, Isaiah, I'll go to you right here about Aaron Jones going to Minnesota. Man, it feels like, again, his career seems like it's winding down. How do you feel about this move? Do you think the Vikings will benefit from him being the starter there? Remember, Madison didn't really work out. They got rid of Cook. He'll have revenge on his mind, you would think, right, Isaiah?
First of all, Steven, hold this L, my friend. The Minnesota Vikings have clinched losing for the next 40 plus years because the thing with the Minnesota Vikings is they're trying to replicate what they had with Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook in their primes, and they're doing it with a bunch of guys that are washed up in Sam Darnold and Aaron Jones. I mean, I like Aaron Jones. He's a good back. I had him on my fantasy team last year. He was always hurt, so I cut him like midseason. But I mean, this is just like a move that makes you scratch your head because it's like, what is Minnesota trying to do with this move? Like they're rebuilding. They just cut Madison. But you're adding to that defense. You added Sam Darnold. You have Justin Jefferson there. Aaron Jones, the thing with him is that he's always hurt, so you can't rely on him, and he just isn't the same like he once was. So I don't understand what Minnesota's doing. Like they are seemingly looking like they're trying to compete for a playoff spot with their additions on defense, getting Jonathan Grenard and Aaron Jones, among others, and Sam Darnold. But then on the other hand, you pick up Sam Darnold. Like, it makes no sense. Like, Sam Darnold got $10 million from the Vikings for having one game with the 49ers in which he threw, I think, 2 interceptions in that game. Like, it just doesn't make it impressive. Like, I don't know what the Vikings are doing. The Vikings are one of the teams this offseason thus far that just makes you scratch your head, like the New York Giants. Like, what are you doing? Like, are you going to go all in or are you not going all in? You can't be in the middle. You can't go all in a little bit and then decide, I want to go all in on rebuild. Like, it just doesn't make sense what they're doing. I'm shocked that he went to Minnesota. Like, I thought, like, okay, like in all the teams for Aaron Jones, I think I picked the New York Jets for him because I thought that, he'll follow Aaron Rodgers to New York. The Jets have, they spent like, $10 million, $9 million last year on Dalvin Cook. You could surely give that to Aaron Jones, who's a better player than Dalvin Cook is at this point of his career. And I thought he was going to go there. But for him to go to Minnesota, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's really, really head-scratching, and I don't understand this move. It reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins going to the Titans. You're just like, really? You went there? Like, it makes no sense.
That one was really out of the blue, but this one I think has a revenge factor in it. That's what I think for Aaron Jones. He knows the division, he knows the stadiums, so that's a little bit different. All right, Ben, what do you see this move doing for the Vikings and for Aaron Jones? How do you think this will work? Will this give Aaron Jones maybe a multi-year contract if he balls out? How do you think he'll do in Minnesota this year?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Isaiah. It's a weird fit. I think right now the Vikings, their starting quarterbacks are going to be Sam Darnold or Jimmy Garoppolo, because there's rumors that Jimmy G might be cut, and they might be going after Jimmy G. So it's literally you got a competition with Sam Darnold, Jimmy G. Unless you go out for the Vikings and you're essentially looking at JJ McCarthy or Bill Nix, which is possible. But I'm essentially a guy that's not high on either of those guys in the draft. I'm just not. So, like, I just don't know in terms of what the Vikings are trying to do. I think they should be rebuilding. I think that Justin Jefferson is going to request a trade within the next couple of years because I think with him being the best receiver in the game, he wants to get paid, and he also wants to go to a team that's winning. The Vikings are in that specific situation right now in the next several years that are showing that. But they're trying to bring in guys like Sam Darnold and Aaron Jones. I mean, obviously you can't really compare those two. Of course, Aaron Jones is a lot better, but like there's just no direction. Like, essentially, are you going to rebuild after you move on from Kirk Cousins, or are you trying to bring guys in? Oh yeah, by the way, they lost essentially the best defensive player, Daniel Hunter, today, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So it's like they're just bringing guys in to lose guys. It's just there's no specific like identity with them, and that's why I think specifically Justin Jefferson is going to get frustrated because there's just no direction at the end, and he probably wants a specific direction before he gets paid.
Yeah, we got to figure out who the quarterback is going to be for Jefferson this year, Darnold, or there will be a drafted quarterback. Who knows who will start this
James,
year for? Yes.
Before we move to the next topic, the thing with the Vikings is they remind me of the land of washed up toys. Like, that's what they are. They remind me of when my Lakers lost Dwight Howard and we brought in all these washed up guys. Like, what are we even doing? Like Carlos Boozer and Chris Kaman. Like, what are we even doing? And Jeremy Lin, for example. But like, it's like that. Like, they're bringing in all these guys that either once were good or big names, and then you're just like, okay, like what are you doing? It just doesn't make any sense. And I guess they're trying to fit all this in and make Kevin O'Connell look good. Like, I don't get it. Like, the Danielle Hunter signing, which we'll get into later, like Minnesota got Jonathan Grenard. You can argue Danielle Hunter's a way better player. Kirk Cousins, obviously, like, that contract's massive, but you replace him with Sam Darnold. Like, it makes no sense. And like you mentioned, Ben, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix. I sadly think that JJ McCarthy, having watched him play, he didn't do much at Michigan. He just handed the football over a lot and then did a lot of those play action passes. He reminds me a lot of Mac Jones. He really does, where he didn't have to do a lot in college and then gets exposed in the NFL. And then as far as Bo Nix is concerned, me and James, I think we're talking about this yesterday. Bo Nix reminds me of Gardner Minshew, where he turns the football a lot. He's a really high reward player. He'll make like plays that you're just like, wow, man, how did you do that? But then he'll make a lot of plays that you're just like, are you serious, dude? Like a little kid could have not done that crap. Like that's the thing with Bo Nix. So I don't know if you're Minnesota, like the draft, I don't know. But I would have definitely gone after another player other than Sam Darnold. Like I would have gone Ryan Tannehill. Like why not? Like Ryan Tannehill is better than Sam Darnold. He's a guy that he's not like the sexiest name, but he's a guy that's better. And if you want to win, if you want to compete for a playoff spot, then he would have helped you a little bit. But Sam Darnold, I saw him play, turns the football over way too much.
How about Justin Fields? This guy essentially has been out there for the last several days. There's no essentially destinations really out for him. And you can't tell me right now that Justin Fields isn't better than what they have right now specifically. And if they're trying to bring guys in to try to bring guys out, Justin Fields probably won't cost a whole lot. If they're bringing, Aaron Jones and they sell Justin Jefferson, Justin Fields can probably get them, 7 to 8 wins probably on his own. You look at the Bears team last year. They were projected to be, I believe, obviously their number 1 overall pick, but like the second half of their season, they were a couple games outside the playoff mix after their horrific season. So I think specifically Justin Fields deserves better. And the reason why he's probably not going to go to a place like Minnesota is because it's in division. But it's just like he's out there. Like somebody has to take him.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens. We'll talk about Justin Fields later on. Interesting note that Isaiah brought to me. Also, there's news out there that Bengals defensive tackle DJ Reader is likely to leave the Bengals as he will visit Detroit tomorrow. We'll see what happens with that. It might be just a rumor, or it might happen tomorrow. Speaking of the Cincinnati Bengals, we had some news earlier today. The Bengals are trading running back Joe Mixon to the Houston Texans. The Bengals informed Mixon of his release, but were approached by the Texans about a trade before the move was processed. Houston did not want to risk losing Mixon to other teams of free agency, so instead, they get a trade going. Isaiah, I guess I'll start with you here. What did you think about this Mixon trade?
I'm not surprised that the Bengals are cutting ties with Mixon because it feels like they've been done with him for quite a long time. So I'm not surprised because they've had it with his off the field issues. They've had it with his injuries as well. So it just seems like that they're done. They're done with all that off the field stuff, and they don't want to deal with that anymore. In terms of the trade, I was shocked because I thought that he was going to get released and that he was going to go out and find his own place back. But I thought like the Texans. I mean, they didn't give up much. I'm shocked that they're going to pick up, his massive salary. That's a crazy thing to do. But I mean, they look what they've done so far. They've got Joe Mixon. They've got Daniil Hunter. Azeez Al-Shire is, a part of that defense now. Joe Mixon had a really productive year last year. 257 carries, 1,034 yards. And 9 touchdowns. He was very, very productive. So I think he's still got a lot left in the tank. He's going to be able to help CJ Stroud. Keep in mind, fellas, they had Devin Singletary running the football last year for them, and he was an all right running back. Now you pair him up with Joe Mixon. It's going to definitely take a lot of pressure off of CJ Stroud, which I really like. And CJ Stroud doesn't have to put the Texans on his back and have to do everything in the world. So I love this move for the Texans. In terms of the Bengals, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, like they definitely wanted to get off the field stuff. DJ Reader, that's the guy that I know the Niners had interest in. Defensive tackle. I'm surprised that his market really hasn't developed. Because he's a really good inside defensive lineman. And then you have T. Higgins who requested a trade. For me, it just seems like the Bengals are in transition right now where, like, okay, we have Burrow, we've got Jamar Chase. We have all these guys that we need to pay now, and we got to move off of some of these other complementary pieces because we don't have the money to supplement our team because we're paying all these guys high priced players. So I don't know. I think I could see the Bengals being like a team that just gets younger to fill these positions like offensive line. There's even rumors out there, and John, you're probably gonna hate me for saying this, that Orlando Brown might be a cap casualty, so he could be cut. There's a lot of like, it seems like a team that's in transition as we speak.
And the terms wasn't out there, but then about a couple of hours ago, the trade compensation was out there. So Bleacher Report was saying that the Bengals will get back only a 7th-round pick in the exchange. The issue is, or not the issue, but the deal is saying, well, it's good for both teams. The Texans get a starting running back without getting into a bidding war, and then the Bengals get something in return at least for Mixon, but not much. Ben, how do you see this trade going for Houston? Do you think he could be that leader in the locker room and run well for Houston? And do you have any idea what Cincinnati is doing right now?
So in terms of the move, it's a great move. It's a great fit. And obviously, they obviously were able to get a trade with him with Mixon. Obviously before they were going to release him. The thing about Mixon too is he's really young. He's still, I believe, 27, 28 years old. And the Texans kind of have a really young overall offense, of course, leading with the Stroud. So I think it just kind of fits everything. They brought back Noah Brown, who has a pretty good deep playmaking ability. They got Tank Dell, obviously. They brought back Dalton Schultz. So really, it just came down to the running game that they needed, and they bring in Joe Mixon, who, like I said, I mentioned, very productive last year and very productive last couple of years. Remember, guys, Joe Mixon had, I believe, 13 touchdowns in 2021, so it wasn't far off where he had maybe his career high in terms of his overall production. So, yeah, I mean, just great move for them. For the Bengals, I mean, I don't even think that Zach Moss is that bad. If you want to talk about a specific kind of replacement, he was not bad with Indiana. I was going to say Indianapolis last year. I don't think he's going to be obviously as great as Mixon. But in terms of what Isaiah was mentioning about some of the cap casualties, I don't know about Orlando Brown because that's obviously a massive one. They did bring Mike Gesicki in. The thing about Gesicki, and that's coming from myself as a Pats fan, is he's not a great blocking tight end. So I just have to take a look specifically where the Bengals have outside of him. I know they moved on from Irv Smith Jr. Today to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they also lost Drew Sample too. So yeah, they're kind of transition here and there, but I would not be surprised. And John, you might love me for this, but I would not be surprised if Justin Jefferson teams up with Jamar Chase again at some point in time. I just don't know when that would be.
That would be something to see. All right, John, this is your team. This is your trade. We talked for years about Joe Mixon, either on the field or off the field stuff. When will he be released? Will he be traded ever? Will he stay with the Bengals? Well, now we know what happened to him. What's your reaction to this trade and how it affects both teams?
I didn't know Oprah owned the Bengals. Like, you get a player, you get a player, you get a player. Are you freaking kidding me? I can't scream because my uncle and my mom are asleep. But for Texans, this is phenomenal. This team continues to get better. This is their division to lose every single year. And this is just more and more room for improvement for the Jaguars. I think, like I said, it's a great addition. It relieves a lot of pressure for CJ Stroud because now it helps him to figure out, hey, what positions on the offensive line they have to address, because that's one thing that has to be the Texans' number one priority. Now that you've addressed the running back, now you're bringing back receivers from last year, Noah Brown, making some good plays. Now you can help protect Stroud. They'll get even better, and I think it's great. But for the Bengals, I don't know how many times I had to say this. I've never liked their head coach. He was masked because we have Joe Burrow. He was never been a good head coach. He was not been a good leader. He's not a good decision maker. Why? Like, this just exposes him. But I swear, if you literally have to move on from Brown, I'm gonna go on the biggest rant I've had, Isaiah, in a long time since the Tom Herman one before he got fired. I mean, this is just an embarrassment. You released Joe Mixon and had 1,000 yards, I believe, 20 plus touchdowns in the last year, 2.5 seasons combined. You have barely Brown on the offensive line. You only have DJ Ritter going to the Lions. It's an absolute embarrassment. But again, for Houston, they not only won this trade, they're continuing to prove themselves that they are going to be a top 5 team, and they're going to be a really good team for a very long time.
All right, so the Philadelphia Eagles have been busy the last 2 days. Of course, they get Saquon Barkley. They helped their defense out. They lost 2 coordinators, but they got 2 coordinators back in 2 consecutive years. They get Devontae Parker today. I think that's an underrated move. You know, the other receivers are going to get the attention. So maybe Parker will have some good stats. But in an odd move, the Eagles signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And if you recall, he was a Lion last year. He was an Eagle. And then, well, they didn't like his play. The fans didn't like his play. And Johnson didn't like the fans back. So it was odd when I saw this news today. For Gardner-Johnson, he gets a 3-year, up to $33 million deal. It was just shocking as heck. And I was talking to Isaiah about this, thinking like, where is this coming from? Maybe it's a reunion, but both sides, you know, the fans and him, maybe they got to have a bonding agreement again or something. I'll start off with John here about this move. Did you find it shocking? And then is he the answer to the Eagles defense, the secondary, not to get beat again like they did last year?
If the fans didn't like this play because it wasn't playing well, what are the Eagles thinking? I get you've lost 2 veteran pieces in Fletcher Cox and obviously using Kelsey to retirement, and DeAndre Swift to another, I believe it was Chicago, on a 3-year, $12+ million deal. Why? What do you think this is going to do? Sometimes I think when teams make these decisions, they have no idea what they're doing, and they just have their head all the way up their nose.
Okay, Ben, I'll ask you the same question because the Eagles really need that help. We saw Bradbury getting beat deep, especially against Drew Lock in Seattle. But how do you think Gardner Johnson will help the Eagles secondary? And then can he repair the relationship that he has with the fans and the Eagles?
I mean, I think that him going back, of course, is certainly a choice. But I think in terms of what they need, they struggled mightily last year in coverage. And you saw what he did with Detroit last year. He was a real good tackler. But obviously, if he's going back and there's obviously some past history that, kind of happened, you just don't know specifically the ovation. And they, of course, have to figure out the defensive coordinator. Of course, Matt Patricia being there last year. Obviously, the defense doesn't matter in terms of whatever name that you have. If you don't have a guy specifically that doesn't know how to coach on that defensive side. So, but yeah, in terms of him specifically, I'm a big fan of Gardner Johnson. I just love his play specifically. He's aggressive. He can hit. He can tackle. And I think that the Titans are going to be looking at Justin Simmons. So I thought that was going to be a really good fit over in Philly. So I think that they kind of saw that specifically and wanted to decide to come back with him. In terms of Gardner Johnson. So, yeah, I like the fit. It's just very odd the fact that he came back not even a year after he was traded or moved on.
Okay, Isaiah, same question. What do you think about this Gardner Johnson move for the Eagles? I mean, when I sent you this, I was like, what the heck is going on? You would have thought he would never come back there. And it's just odd to see. And then it was odd also to see his time so short with the Lions. So how do you see this going for Gardner Johnson part 2 in Philadelphia?
As much as I hate the Eagles, I got to give Nick Sirianni and the Eagles a lot of credit because they have really done good this entire offseason. They got Vic Fangio to be their defensive coordinator, and he's a really great defensive mind. But the defense, the thing is, I'm not surprised he went back because I did hear rumors that they were going to target him, that they had him and the Eagles front office had mended fences. So they needed a improved secondary because James Bradbury, I mean, that dude was always getting burnt. I mean, their linebackers were always getting burnt. Their safeties were always getting burnt. If their defensive line did not get any pressure, well, the quarterbacks would have a free lane to throw the football to whichever receiver that he was throwing the football to on the opposing team. So I'm not surprised that they're trying to shore up their defense. I mean, they got Bryce Huff yesterday. He's going to really help improve their edge. The secondary, they got C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's a solid corner. He's very physical as well. He's going to be better than Bradbury. But I think they need a few more corners because Keely Ringo, who they drafted from Georgia, he got burnt a ton. Jalen Carter, he was very effective, but it seems like his conditioning wasn't that great. He got tired out in the second half. Jordan Davis was nowhere to be found last year, sadly. And then I don't know what they're going to do at linebackers. So I think it's a solid move. I like what the Eagles are doing off defensively. Offensively, not so much because you got Saquon, but Jason Kelce retired, and now who's going to play center for you? It's going to be someone new for the first time in like 12 to 13 years. That's going to be right in front of Jalen Hurts. And I mean, the jury is still out on Jalen Hurts if he's a good quarterback. I mean, he had a really, really bad year, and he got exposed last season as a passer. So, I mean, I think it's a good start for Philly. But I got to see more just because I need to see like that defense. They need linebackers. They need, they need linebackers. They need new safeties and stuff like that. Like the Devontae Parker signing, I don't think he's really going to do much there. But I need to see more on the defense from them. I don't think you can get Vic Fangio. You can get C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You can get Bryce Huff. But you got to improve the other parts, the main concerns, which was the linebacking core, the safeties, and the secondary as well. So, and also, I think this move and what the Eagles have done also signals, though, that we could see a lot more moves coming, like Hassan Reddick and also
Josh
Sweat.
Sweat.
Yep, Josh Sweat. I think he's could be out the door as well.
That's all crazy news. We'll see what happens, man. So let's stay on the East Coast, but go down south to Miami. The Dolphins are going to sign former Buffalo Bill cut player safety Jordan Poyer to a 1-year deal. This is obviously a good move for Miami. They know him, and they had to get someone back in Miami. I mean, they cut a lot of defensive players. I mean, a lot of guys that really either were hurt or they weren't worth their contract. And you obviously saw this move. And you figure more coming with Miami, I think. They just have to cut more payroll, I think, here. Isaiah, I'll start with you. How much impact do you think Poyer will make in that Miami secondary?
I think he'll make a big impact. I was shocked that the Buffalo Bills got rid of him. I think he was definitely one of their most effective players last year because they had their whole secondary seemingly was banged up towards the end. And it's what's funny, Ben, John, and James, is that they move on from Poyer. They move on from Tre'Davious White. They move on from a bunch of players. And the guy that they keep is my guy, Taylor Rapp, to be their starting safety and the anchor of their secondary. So, I mean, I'm starting to think maybe I should be a GM because all the players that I've been talking about, they're all getting like big contracts. But in terms of Poyer, I mean, I like it. I think it's a good move. They needed some help in the secondary. Xavier Howard's not there anymore. You still have Jalen Ramsey. They lost a couple of safeties. So Poyer will definitely help. It's a 1-year deal, not a lot of money, which is great for Jordan Poyer. And I also think Poyer, this reminds me of Aaron Jones to the Vikings. He went there for revenge. I think that's why he went there, to prove the Buffalo Bills wrong for releasing him. This offseason. I am shocked, however, that Justin Simmons wasn't signed first, because you would think like, okay, Justin Simmons is younger. Justin Simmons is a much better player at this point of his career. And so I thought he would be signed first, but obviously teams haven't been valuing him because I haven't really heard a lot about Justin Simmons. I don't know, Ben, John, or James, if you guys haven't heard any rumors about Justin Simmons. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Tyler Rossini, of course, is very talented and athletic. She said after the CJ Gardner Johnson went to Philly that Justin Simmons, I guess, was high on the Phillies list, and now that the Titans are a team to watch out for Justin Simmons, as well as L'Jarius Sneed could be potentially a trade target in the next couple of days. So watch out for that as well.
Wow.
Wow.
All right, Ben.
Yeah, we might have another bombshell.
So, Ben, this is your division here in Jordan Poyer. I was wondering if you were watching any of those games against Miami, or excuse me, against Buffalo. Did you see maybe a little step back for Jordan Poyer this year? Is that why the Bills didn't keep him? And then also, how do you think his impact will be in that secondary for Miami?
Yeah, I mean, I think that his play maybe diminished a bit. I mean, his tackling, obviously, I was just looking at his stats when Isaiah was talking about Poyer. During the playoffs specifically, he still was putting up decent stats, solo tackles. He was up between 5 to 10 tackles. So it's not like he wasn't being productive. I just don't think specifically he's not the same guy he once was. I probably would have gone after Justin Simmons if it was just me because he's a lot younger. But for a 1 year deal, I think it's fine. Even though he stays in the division, maybe like Isaiah was mentioning, it's payback specifically kind of for him getting cut. But I was surprised that he got cut because the Bills were now in deep cap hell. I know they restructured Josh Allen, but it's a business at the end of the day, and of course that you're gonna have to make tough decisions. So I just think specifically that, of course, he was one of them. Tre'Davious White obviously has had some injuries in the past. They probably are thinking about that. He's getting a little bit older. So yeah, I mean, I think that the overall move itself is fine. They also added Jack Barrett, which I'll probably talk about in a bit too, which I did like with them. So I mean, I think Miami specifically kind of slowly developing into a pretty solid defense after losing guys like Xavier Howard and others.
All right, let's go to John. How do you feel about this move from Jordan Poyer? Do you think it will help Miami, or do you think they still need more in that secondary?
Secondary, I think, isn't their biggest issue. It's really going to be the offensive line and the quarterback. But I think it's a great signing. I think it can help them. Again, the biggest thing out of anything is Tua. I don't trust him at all, 100% at all. But from the Bills' perspective, what the flying fart are they doing? You literally released everyone on defense besides what Isaiah's guy and DeMar Hamlin. And let's be honest,
Taylor Rapp, John,
don't-
come
I
on.
don't, and that's what I said, Isaiah's guy. And the only reason why they haven't is because of PR with DeMar Hamlin. He's not the guy. He's not a good player, but they're keeping him because of PR. Take that away. What are you doing? You literally, and you did Taylor Rapp a 3-year extension. Cool, you have no idea what the fuck you're doing. You could have had literally Aaron Jones on a 1 to 2 year minimum deal.
Mhm.
You could have had Dalvin Cook last year on a 2 to 3 year deal, small deal. Because guess what? You're struggling in the running game, which could help free up Josh Allen, protect Josh Allen on the offensive line. The Bills have no idea what they're doing. The Dolphins don't know what they're doing. I think this division really isn't good. It's going to come to like week 13 through week 18 because it's not a division where Buffalo comes in like the Eagles did by week 13. I mean, this is a good signing for the Dolphins, but both teams to me take major downgrades this offseason. And I'm not sure what Miami's really going to do next year because everything still goes back to Tua. And until we have those answers or the questions answered, to me, it doesn't matter what they do on the defensive line.
All
They're
right,
gonna
Ben.
extend Tua
Yeah, go ahead,
for
Ben.
his injuries, and two, an approved 5th-year option. Where for me, I don't think that many Dolphins fans that at least online that I've been seeing are very up and down with them. So I'll be curious to see what happens with that. But go ahead, James. Sorry.
No. Actually, the next topic is, of course, for you. We're going to be talking New England Patriots here. Josh Uche, the linebacker with 3 sacks last year, stayed despite turning down much more money. So that's a thing you really don't see often, but he stays there with the New England Patriots on a 1-year deal here on Tuesday. Much more was on the table elsewhere, but he chose to stay on a short-term deal. He had a level of interest in his returning. I think that has to do with Mayo, a former second round pick. Also, Austin Hooper, the former Raider, was signed by the Patriots on a 1 year, $4.25 million deal. And it is rumored that the Patriots are interested in Calvin Ridley, like we predicted, Ben, on the shows, it feels like a year ago. But how do you like these moves for you, Ben, with the Patriots, with Uche, Hooper, and then how real of a possibility is it that the Patriots get Calvin Ridley?
So I'll first start with Josh Uche. I think it might have been the steal contract of the day, folks. I mean, this guy specifically took a hometown discount. You legitimately had to pay like 3 to 5 mil for him for a year, and the guy put up almost 12 sacks a couple of years ago. So you just think maybe that he only had 3 sacks last year. They didn't give him enough playing time last year either. I thought specifically that there was just times that, yeah, of course, I think he's more of a third down type of rushing edge type of guy, but he could definitely be a game changer for sure for our defense. So I like him, of course, coming back. Austin Hooper, it's just Mike Gesicki essentially the replacement, essentially the same guy. It's just only maybe a little bit bigger. Another thing too is he came. I played for the Browns and Knox Van Pelt was over there too, so I think that was the biggest reason why he came to New England. You obviously remember him from the Falcons, of course, when we played him in the Super Bowl. Love his overall size. His hands are okay. I'll take it as a tight end too. Nothing obviously crazy. Calvin Ridley, my chances of him getting signed with us is probably 5 to 10%. Not likely. I feel like this point in time, I do think that we did, of course, give him an offer according to Josina Anderson, and the offer is still out there for tomorrow. But I'm not feeling great about it just because, one, he lives in Florida. Two, of course, no offense to my Patriots, but we're rebuilding. The Jaguars right now are trying to get back to winning that division. Three, of course, state income tax is massive difference with Massachusetts and Florida. So I think right now, specifically, I think we're going to have to start to pivot to the trades. Maybe look at Higgins, Ayuk. We're also looking at, too, which I did not mention at the beginning of the show, is the Chargers. And, of course, Isaiah has mentioned about his Chargers. The Chargers may be getting, I was going to say Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Mike Williams, which I would like Mike Williams, but he's just so injury prone. And also Keenan Allen, too. Both guys, specifically receiver, I think they're great fits, but they're just so injury prone. So I think specifically if we don't get Ridley tomorrow, which I think is very likely, I'm not banking on it. I would love it. But yeah, Uche, awesome. Hooper, I'm fine with. And then Ridley specifically, Tom will tell about tomorrow. So.
And shout out to Seth Johnson Ford saying, "Sup guys? Hey, feel free to comment on some topics that we're bringing up here, Seth. And if his Chiefs trade Snead, they need to get Justin Simmons."
Hold on. I gotta comment on this. Seth's a Chiefs fan? I thought he was a Rams fan.
Dude, how do you think we feel about you as a sports fan? You literally had an Astros jersey in your shirt had on the video on the group chat. And you said go see how it's on your Facebook profile. But I did.
Seth, congratulations on the Super Bowl. Congratulations.
Or not. Isaiah, how do you feel about these Patriot moves? And are they done? Are they not done yet in the off season here? And then how do you think these moves will help them coming up in the season?
So for your first question about the moves that the New England Patriots have made, I like the Uche move because they definitely, they're a defensive team. Gerard Mayo was a defensive head coach. You got to keep that defense together. That defense was surprisingly, even though they played with a lot of backups throughout the season because a lot of guys were hurt, they weren't ranked in the top 5 in the NFL. That's very, very impressive stuff. So you got to keep that defense together. In terms of the other players that they've got, Austin Hooper's a nice piece. James knows him probably better than me because he played for the Raiders last year. I think Austin Hooper's okay. I think that he's not really a world beater. I think that he's a guy
he's a fine tight end backup though, which I'll take.
He is a fine, he is. He's a guy that can he can catch the ball. And The problem with the Patriots tight ends is I don't really put a lot of stock into their stats because they really haven't gotten a quarterback that can throw the football to them. Mac Jones wasn't throwing it to tight ends. Bailey Zappi, when he came in, he was throwing it to Hunter Henry. He made Hunter Henry look like finally the guy that was worth that massive contract the Patriots signed. So it really depends on the quarterback. They have Jacoby Brissett now, who I think that signals that Bailey Zappi's not going to be back. And I know me and James, we talked about this, Ben, when you had to leave last night, is Bailey Zappi did some cold-hearted stuff after Mac Jones was traded. He liked on Instagram Mac Jones's the post that Mac Jones had been traded, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's classless from Zappi." For me, I viewed it as it was like it's cold-blooded, but when you're a competitor, you got to be cold-blooded, and it's something that I felt like Tom Brady would do. But what's funny is now with Brissett, karma has hit Bailey Zappi because you like that post, and now there's a good possibility you might not even be on the team. So
he also too, really quick guys, he also shared that Jacoby Brissett agreement with the Patriots. So I think specifically he's just like at this point in time, Lord save me, I still want a spot on this team, but you damn right for sure we're gonna move on from you at some point in time before the season. So because right now they have Nathaniel Rourke, of course, is going to be a quarterback 3 at best. Jacoby Brissett right now is going to be a quarterback 2 at best. So, and you're going to get the number 3 overall pick. The consensus right now, unless things drastically change, is got a quarterback. So it's like at this point in time, it's just like he has no spot at all for this team.
No, exactly. And I think that's that's why I think the Patriots aren't done. I think that I think what they're gonna do now is, and I'm shocked by the Patriots because I did think that when we started free agency, and I think we talked about this on the show a couple of days ago, that some of the teams that you expect to be very aggressive to start free agency, one of them I thought was gonna be the New England Patriots. Because I thought, okay, you have all this money to spend, $100+ million in cap space. I thought they were going to do what they did in 2020 and just be like, you get this guy, you get this much money, you get this much money, you get this much money, and just spend like the Jaguars did. But the Patriots have made like marginal moves. Like Antonio Gibson's okay. Austin Hooper's like, he's all right. Jacoby Brissett could be your starter until the rookie quarterback is ready. So that could definitely help them. Bringing back Uche is definitely good. The one that really, disappointed me was Mike Onwenu because I badly wanted him in San Fran because I have been very disgusted with the Niners not doing anything on the offensive line front. But congrats to the Patriots for getting him back because you need a guy that can protect your rookie quarterback. So that makes a lot of sense. I'm still not satisfied with the Patriots' weapons because you can't have a rookie and have him just have no weapons for him and just expect him to do something. It's literally going to be like Mac Jones 2.0 if you, in fact, do that. So what the Patriots need to do now is I would try to blow Calvin Ridley away. I know he's not like your typical number one, but you have to get a productive receiver
He is
there.
one.
Yeah, he would be more productive than any of the other Patriots receivers right now. I know they got Kendrick Bourne back, but he's coming off a massive injury, so who knows how he's going to be. But if I'm the Patriots, I would go after like some of those big wide receivers, tight ends. Darnell Mooney is another guy I thought they would get. He ends up signing with the Falcons, but
Isaiah, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What would it take, right, if we don't get Calvin Ridley, which I think is very likely we won't, what would it take for us to get the Niners to pry away Ayuk?
Oh,
because another thing too, the reason why I'm asking you about this, guys, and James and John, hear me on this as well. In Arizona State, I believe Jaden Daniels was his first tap before he transferred over to LSU. Brandon Ayuk was one of his top receivers that Jaden Daniels was working with. It just would be awesome because Brandon Ayuk obviously would cost a lot to return back. But, of course, as they say, good players, you have to pay the price. And it's just like, for T. Higgins, I think, for the Bengals, it feels like a Deebo Samuel situation right now where he's going to go look at the market. It's going to really use it as leverage for the potential of the Bengals to up his contract. Of course, John will probably agree with me on that. But, unless Calvin really moves on, the only spot for T. Higgins, 2 spots right now for the T. Higgins specifically that I'll probably get a lot is either the Titans because the Titans just kind of feel like that team where they need that number one, specifically badly for Will Levis, or he goes to the Jaguars, because the Jaguars, obviously, you take Ridley out, he'd be an instant upgrade. And obviously, too, he played at Clemson with Trevor Lawrence.
The thing with Ayuk is I think that he will cost probably your second round pick. Because you guys have what, the pick 35. He will definitely cost that, and maybe
34.
something even more. I don't think the Niners would demand the third overall pick, because that would be ludicrous, right? To get Ayuk, that would be way too much. But I think if you get the number 35 pick, I think that would probably be part of the package. And honestly, I could see Zappe being part of the package too, because we do need a backup quarterback. Since Sam Darnold is no longer in San Francisco anymore, so that's the one thing I do see. But James, to answer your second question, are the Patriots done? No, I think they'll have more moves ahead. I think that Bailey Zappi, that's the next domino to fall, because it looks like he doesn't have a spot on the team. There's a lot of teams out there that are looking for backup quarterbacks, but the market is dwindling. I mean, the Justin Fields thing, which we'll talk about later, that's dwindling. His suitors are dropping day by day. Drew Lock signed today with the Giants. And then you have, I think Marcus Mariota signed with the Commanders. So Sam Howell is another guy that could be on the market. Like, there's a lot of good quality quarterbacks that are on the market, or potentially could be on the market, that you're just like, wow. Like, I think that he would be a good fit. So if I'm the Niners, I need a backup, and I need a proven backup to back up Brock Purdy. And I would take Zappe. And I think Zappe is a guy that, with his status, that it's going to be the next thing to drop. So watch out for that. And Calvin, really, I don't know. I think that could be another one to fall next. If in fact we get that, I think tomorrow we could see Calvin Ridley, that decision from him, because you're not going to take that long debating between Patriots and Jaguars. He wants to stay in Jacksonville, but the Patriots are, pursuing him hard.
I'd imagine they're offering him more money to be a Patriot as well. John, what do you think about these moves for the Patriots? And then how do you think they'll get Calvin Ridley in the next couple of days?
I think they definitely have a chance. I think it's not like Calvin Ridley, to me, again, I could be wrong. I don't think he's chasing a ring. He's just trying to get paid, and we'll go from there. Again, I don't know him. I don't know any of his people, or much less him as a person, but I think it'd be really interesting for them to sign him. But other than that, sorry, Ben, but the Patriots are at nowhere right now. They're on Route 66 in the middle of the desert. You don't have a quarterback. You don't have an offensive line. You get a new head coach. This stuff does take a while. And yes, the draft is next month. And I'll be curious to see who they pick in the draft and what type of offense they're going to do, because it used to be that pocket passer type guy. What are the Patriots going to do? It's their first year without Bill Belichick. How do they adjust? How do the fans adjust? And the players do? But we'll see. But right now, to me, I think I'll have a much different opinion come April.
Yeah, I really want to see who they draft.
Before I go to you, James, this team right now, the best way to define this team, incomplete, right? Because you feel like right now that they're bringing a lot of their in-house guys back, which is good. But with a lot of the cap space that we have specifically, now it's for specifically, you get a guy like a Calvin Ridley, or you get a guy like a Mike Williams, or you get like a Brandon Ayuk or a T. Higgins. You can make this team even more better as, of course, you progress it, right, for the next couple of years. Of course, a rebuild specifically, I, of course, don't want to put the chips in and be like the Bears of last year, where you just sign contracts crazy and, be like that. Obviously, play it smart, but obviously be a little aggressive at the same time, too.
Yeah, it's like that time if you play in Madden and you're in the off season and you're trying to save the game, but you have not now you have to have like 4 receivers, 3 running backs, and you're just signing whomever to get it done. Basically, we're at that time of the year. Some good news, and I'll go to John first here. The Houston Texans are signing former Vikings defensive end Danielle Hunter to a 2-year, $49 million deal that has a max value of $51 million. Since your boots on the ground, well, kind of near in Texas, John, how do you feel like this move will help the Texan defense even more? Will it get them over the hump? Get them not only in the first round, but maybe take a bigger step this year for Houston.
I think DJ Khaled is there in Houston because he keeps saying another one. You keep just signing these guys that not just are really, really talented, but are really good fit for the team. And like I said, they keep getting better and better. And that first year, they already were 2 games away from the yeah, 2 games away from the Super Bowl, and they just keep getting better and better. And it's gonna be really good for them. And another great signing. The defense was, I would say, somewhat decent, but giving these pieces better in the free agency and then looking at the draft is really gonna be great. They just keep getting better and better, and this is their division to lose in Jacksonville. You really need to get on your A game this year because your quarterback in Houston in the pocket to me is better and just overall is a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Ben, when I saw this move, I was kind of disappointed because I had him going to Detroit. And they made some little moves, but Houston, we were waiting for them to make a big splash. They obviously made one via trade today with Mixon, but they do this with Hunter today. How much of an impact do you think Hunter will make, not only on the field, but in the locker room as that veteran presence?
I thought the Texans won overall free agency today. I mean, you bring in a running game specifically with Joe Mixon, who was very productive the last couple of years. Then you bring in Danielle Hunter, who is essentially arguably one of the best defensive players in the market. And of course, it was a payday specifically. He got paid a lot, but now you have him specifically in that system with DeMeco Ryans. You have him alongside Will Anderson, who was an absolute freak last year. You have CJ Stroud, of course, who's going to be a budding star in the making. So the Texans right now, guys, I mean, this is essentially how the Patriots hopefully could be in their rebuild, where you find that quarterback and then the next year you pounce. And obviously right now, this year for the Patriots, we have a lot of cap space, but the Texans essentially found their identity for the first year last year with Stroud. And then now they essentially add the pieces because you have the quarterback that will attract the pieces. So essentially Danielle Hunter going there, love that signing. And like John was mentioning, the Jaguars have to be on the lookout for this team because you saw what the Jaguars obviously did last year. They had a great first couple games, like mid part of the season, and then something fell off with them. And I like Trevor Lawrence. I've always been a Trevor Lawrence believer if there was ever a thing. But CJ Stroud, I think, is that best quarterback now in that division. I think it's really at this point in time it is. And plus 2, I've taken DeMeco Ryans over Doug Peterson. I just feel like DeMeco Ryans' defense wins championships at the end of the day. You bring in Danielle Hunter with Mixon. Like I said, Mixon, of course, is going to be leaning at the running attack. Hunter on that defensive front. And I think, guys, too, watch out for this. I could see Chase Young taking a look at the Houston Texans as well, too. And I don't think it would break the bank, and then you really would have something there. I mean, if you imagine you have Chase Young, Danielle Hunter, and Will Anderson, I mean, good luck.
All right, so Seth Johnson Ford mentions that he doesn't like this move because he is 29 years old, so he's headed toward the end of his prime, and at $29 million in year one, he's good. But yikes, it's that.
Well, that's what happens when you have a young team that has a ton of money and they can afford to do.
And Seth also mentions there's rumors that the Texans are interested in Jamal Adams, and hopefully the Raiders.
Well, that, James.
God willing.
No, Raiders signed into a 7-year deal, $300 million.
No.
If they sign Jamal Adams, it will. If they sign Jamal Adams, it will poison the good trajectory of that team, dude. It will poison that culture.
Yeah, DeMeco Ryans would have to really do a job coaching him up and keeping him in control, I would imagine. Isaiah, what do you think about this move for Houston? Did they pay too much for experience here? How is he going to fit into Houston? Will they get him? Will he get them over the hump?
I was kind of shocked that he went to Houston. I thought that he would go to another team, like maybe. Yeah, I thought he was going to go to another. I did not see Houston in that mix, but he's a damn good defensive lineman. I mean, 16.5 sacks. He's going to drastically improve their pass rush. Will Anderson last year was a monster, but the problem with Will Anderson is that he was always getting double teamed and triple teamed, so he wasn't able to have the production that you would like, but I think this really helps unleash Will Anderson in year 2, because you're gonna have Danielle Hunter off the left edge, you're gonna have Will Anderson off the right edge, and you can't double both and still be able to protect the quarterback. So I think this is a good move for the Houston Texans, and I think it's better than, it's like a trade, right? The Vikings traded Danielle Hunter to the Texans, and and Jonathan Grenard got dealt to the Minnesota Vikings. It's basically a trade. So I think the Texans got better in this situation. Grenard's a decent player, but I would rather have Danielle Hunter, who balled out. He hasn't had, or he's had more than 10 sacks every year in his career since he's been playing in the NFL. So he's a very productive player. So I like this move for the Texans.
All right, so let's get to our next topic here. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have been making some moves here. They trade Deontay Johnson to the Panthers for Dante Jackson, and there's some picks involved as well. So Johnson and number 240th pick will go to Carolina. Meanwhile, Dante Jackson, the corner, will go to Pittsburgh with pick number 178. So I'll start off with you, Ben. Does this feel like the Steelers just had enough of Deontay Johnson and they know they can get better with another receiver? Did this just feel like a dump? And then do you see Dante Jackson somehow making an impact for the Steelers in that secondary?
I mean, this overall move, this is, of course, right after I was taking a nap earlier this evening. I wake up and I'm like, that's the first thing I saw, of course, on Twitter. I was, of course, during free agency, Twitter's maybe the spot to be. But, yeah, I mean, this move, the Panthers, of course, were asking for a number 1 receiver for the last couple of years. And, of course, they did not have that last year. No offense to Adam Thielen. They maybe thought maybe of it from him last year, but now he could be their wide receiver 2 again, like he was with Stephon Diggs over Minnesota. I think he's just a lot better as a wide receiver 2, but that's just me. Deontay Johnson, of course, last year he obviously had his moments where things are pretty bad, but I do think that he could definitely bring some, electricity to that offense. He's dynamic. He can catch the ball. He's really good yards after the catch. In terms of the guy that the Panthers moved on from Deontay Jackson. I mean, right, the corner specifically for the Steelers is okay. I know that they have Joey Porter Jr., but I think specifically that the Panthers won this trade, even though the Panthers are still an awful organization when it comes to their front office and their mismanaging of stuff. Robert Hunt, of course, to give an example. But yeah, I just think that this is a good move for the Panthers. They need specifically at wide receiver 1. I thought they were going to get Jerry Jeudy before, of course, she went over to the Browns. So, I like it. I think specifically the Panthers won that one. I just don't know specifically if he can stay on the field consistently, because I think that would be a moot point specifically with the trade. But, if he stays on the field specifically, I think that the Panthers I pulled on Isaiah last year in terms of having them going with a hot take and having them go to the playoffs. That burned in my head for sure. But I think that they can be a lot better for sure with this one.
All right, Isaiah. So how much of an impact do you think Deontay Johnson will have with the Carolina Panthers? There will be more importance for him to be on that team and produce, or do you think his career will just go haywire here? He'll have temper tantrums on the sideline. How do you see this going for Carolina and Johnson?
I'm not surprised the Steelers traded him, because last year he was hurt a lot. He did play, but he was hurt a lot, and then he also like you mentioned, he was a distraction on the field. I mean, he would throw temper tantrums when he didn't get the football. And the problem with the Steelers is he was productive, but his numbers did go down from the previous year. I'm thinking maybe it's due to the quarterback play and having to play with freaking Mason Rudolph and Mitchell Trubisky. That affects stuff. But this he definitely will have to prove it in Carolina. I think he's their best receiver there. He's very good at yards after the catch, like Ben mentioned. If he can stay healthy, he'll be very productive. But the thing with Deontay Johnson is health. So I mean, he needs to do something because now Bryce Young, this is his prove it year. You got to prove it if you are definitely if he's the guy moving forward in Carolina. So I would say it's a good move for the Panthers. You get a guy that Bryce Young could throw the ball to and he can make plays, but it really depends on his health and him, being not being a distraction because that Panthers, they're trying to rebuild that culture there in Carolina, and they've made a lot of moves thus far in free agency, letting guys leave and letting guys giving that offensive guard that we talked about yesterday, James, $100 million, first time in NFL history that a guard has gotten $100 million plus. So I would probably say it's an okay move, but I'm not surprised Pittsburgh cut him or they traded him because I didn't think they had any use for him because they have George Pickens right now. But for Dante Jackson, I looked at his numbers. He's like a cornerback 3. Like he's not known for getting interceptions. He's not known for being a good tackler. He had 10 tackles, or he had 59 tackles last year, which is all okay. I think he tore his Achilles, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking at his stats right now. Yeah, it was in exchange for Dante Jackson and the number 178 overall pick. So it was a 4th round pick, but he's coming off a torn Achilles. He made one good defensive play, which is he stripped the Texans to force a fumble, but he's not really like a big name type of a player that you'll be like, wow, man, that really improves our defense. They definitely have to get more on defense.
So, John, it sounds like this is just a dump in a way, where you're getting rid of Johnson for the Steelers, and you're just hoping you get someone better, maybe with a better attitude. I don't know. But if you're the Panthers, how would you coach up Deontay Johnson and make him more of a focal point, and then bring him in and buying in? How would you make that happen?
First of all, this is a stupid ass move because this is the same team that traded away a player that was injury prone but had potential, and now they're signing a guy who has a lot of injury and a ton of potential. So clearly, it goes both ways. The Panthers have no idea what they're doing. What is the point of signing Dante Johnson in the first place? You have a struggling veteran receiver in Adam Thielen. You have no offensive line. Bryce Young, you don't know any progressiveness from last year in terms of what did he do, even if it's in 1 or 2 plays here and there, to show what he could do this season? And to me, it makes no sense. It's great for the Steelers. You get one less TikToker dancer off of your team. But for the Panthers, what does this do? This is just another signing. It's just like going to the coffee shop and your day is just as normal. It makes no sense for the Panthers. They have a long ways to go, and I don't see their season ending up much different than last year.
All right, so we have one comment before I go to Isaiah that has a rebuttal. Chrissy Wilson, shout out to you. Make sure you watch her in-season Cowboys content on her YouTube channel. She mentions, and I agree with her, most definitely, Dallas still not making moves in free agency is disappointing, but not surprising to her.
Sorry.
Well, I think a lot of it, they're kind of strapped cash-wise, and then they would have had to make some room for Derrick Henry, and that's where I figured maybe he would go. Not because he has a house in the area in Dallas, but I just thought that would have been a great fit. And yeah, that's the meme that's been going around today, unfortunately, for Cowboy fans out there.
Let me ask this, though. What was the point of releasing Michael Gallup? I believe they moved on from Michael Gallup, right?
He just
Wasn't
wanted
that
to go somewhere else. I think he wanted to get another opportunity elsewhere. He feels
okay?
left out because Lamb gets all the catches.
So wasn't that supposed to free y'all $20 to $30 million, and yet somehow they have no money to make a single move in free agency? How does that
There,
make any sense?
there is reports the Cowboys, according with well, he's not the source, but Isaiah says the Cowboys are interested maybe in Michael Thomas. I mean, that could be a grab bag kind of move there. If he buys in, that could be something there. So let's get to our next topic here. Oh, go ahead, Isaiah, real quick.
Yeah, I want to add something about the Panthers because we were talking about the Panthers, and I just had to throw this in there about
Oh, yeah,
how
yeah.
horrible the Carolina Panthers is. I want you guys to see this graphic right here. I want you guys to see this right here. We brought this up yesterday when they traded away Brian
yeah.
Burns. They gave that guard $100+ million deal. The Carolina Panthers, and I think I brought this up yesterday, they declined an offer from the LA Rams on November 22nd for 2 first-round picks, 2 future first-round picks, and a 2023 second-round pick. So it would have been a second-round pick in last year's draft, and then 2 first-round picks because they wanted 3 first-round picks. And now you settle when you do trade Brian Burns, you trade him for a second-round pick and a 5th-round pick, and you don't even get 1 first-round pick back in return. I mean, this is a stupid organization right there. Dan Morgan, the GM, should be fired instantly for doing that trade yesterday. You couldn't even get the Giants' first-round pick or even a future first-round pick when you had an offer. You were in that front office. Dan Morgan was in that front office because he was the assistant GM to the GM that got fired eventually. He was the assistant GM. And he was in that front office that negotiated that trade, that turned down that package for 2 first-round picks because they wanted 3 first-round picks. And now you can't even get 1 first-round pick. You can't even get 1 first-round pick from the New York Giants, who have first-round picks in next year's draft and then the year after. You couldn't even get 1. He should be fired immediately. If them David Tepper, I would have vetoed that trade immediately. I don't know why he didn't. This is going to set their organization back for a long, long time.
Let me mention this. I think it's all having to do with Tapper having control and final say. And I think with that Ram offer, I think he thought, you know what, maybe we'll get Burns to stay here long term. Maybe we'll ask him. But I think it had something to do with Tapper. I think he had the final say. And if he keeps meddling with the Panthers and the team decisions, it doesn't matter who they bring in, a new GM, new player personnel, new coaches. It's just going to be the same thing over and over again. It really will. All right, so the next topic, Isaiah will like this. We won't like this. And nobody else will. The New York Giants have signed former Seahawks quarterback Drew Lock to a 1-year deal. He is set to be the franchise savior unless he's not. In a corresponding possible move, the Giants are set to release quarterback Daniel Jones and designate him for a post-June 1st cut, per source. We'll see if that happens. Sources. John, I'll go to you first because I don't want to hear Isaiah just yet on this. I really don't. What's the chances the New York Giants starting quarterback will be Drew Lock, or will it be whomever they draft, whether it's McCarthy, Daniels, whoever is left, Bo Nix, whomever?
I think it's a 80% chance Drew Lock is a starter next year. I think the season that the Giants had with Brian Daboll's first year, the expectations were insanely high. And you go into year 2, you miss the playoffs. The offensive line is totally garbage. And this just goes back to, and I believe I said this to one of y'all or someone, if Saquon is gone, Daniel Jones is gone. Because you're not going to not agree to re-sign Saquon, even though you should have, and then keep your so-called franchise quarterback for what? Another terrible season? They've hopefully finally admitted you shouldn't have drafted Daniel Jones, much less paid him over $40 million because he knew No other organization was going to pay him 30, 35, 38, 39, and 40. But I think he'll be the starter for a while until whoever they draft is ready to take over.
All right, my turn to talk. My turn to talk, and I want you guys all to listen closely. First of all, I have a new team, and that is Big Blue, the New York Football Giants, right here. Look at this. I am so ecstatic that Drew Lock finally gets an opportunity to be a starter. He was awful in Denver, but you know why he was awful? It's because Pat Shurmur runs one of the worst offenses in the history of
Blaming
mankind.
everyone else.
Yes, Pat Shurmur is a joke. Look what he did in Seattle. Look at that game against the Eagles where he just goes up and down the field and torches the Philadelphia Eagles. Drew Lock is back. And let me just say, the Giants have their franchise quarterback for the next 5 to 10 years. Brian DeBoer, I agree with you, John. He is going to be gone. That dude is going to be gone. Because if you look at their defense, they have Brian Burns, they have Kayvon Thibodeau, they have I believe they have Kayvon Thibodeau, and I think they have Shaq Lawson on the defensive line. That's a great
What
defensive
about
line.
Leonard Williams? Is he still there? Or no?
No, he's in Seattle.
That's
He just
right.
re-signed. Yeah, he re-signed with Seattle. But that defensive line is going to be great. But the problem with the Giants is it's an incomplete team. They have a lack of corners, solid corners. They have a lack of solid safeties. They have a lack of solid defensive linebackers. And then you look at the offense, right? The offensive line is bad. Drew Lock's going to be their starter. We know he can sling the football down the field. He's a guy that's like kind of like Gardner Minshew, where it's like, high risk, high reward. And then the running back, they got Devin Singletary. You know what? Drew Lock can make plays. If you surround him with weapons, he'll be good. But this is all on Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen and that front office. You have to, if you're going to give Drew Lock that deal, right? This tells me they're either tanking because they're not going to surround him with weapons, or they fully believe in him and then they're going to surround him with weapons. It's up to you, because that's the only way this is going to work. I do like this deal because it's 1 year and $5 million. Daniel Jones is going to be gone. I think post June 1st. It didn't seem like that Brian Daboll really liked him. I mean, Brian Daboll, let's face it, he doesn't like anyone. He got into a shouting match with his defensive coordinator, called him a freaking moron or an effing moron, and the defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, quit on the spot. And he is now the defensive coordinator in Michigan. Mike Kafka, their offensive coordinator, he got into a shouting match with him, and Mike Kafka wanted to quit as well, but the Giants persuaded him to stay. So Brian Daboll can't get along with everybody. I mean, this dude's trying to be Belichick 2.0. The problem with the Giants, yeah, it's the quarterback, but your head coach is a freaking nut. He's a nuthead. That's what he is. He thinks he's better than everybody. He's yelling at everybody. I watched the Giants preseason. They did some mic up video where Brian Daboll was like cussing everybody out just for like the littlest thing ever. Like, it's like, dude, calm the hell down, dude. You're not a guy. You're not Belichick. You haven't won any of these Super Bowls. But the problem with the Giants is we looked at their team yesterday. Like, Drew Lock's better than Daniel Jones. So I think they upgraded at that position, but they have to surround him with weapons, because if they do, Drew Lock's going to work great with the Giants. But if they don't, then Brian Daboll is going to be out of a job. And guess what? Bill Belichick's going to be the next head coach of the Giants.
That's what I think will happen with the Giants. It's a win it all or nothing for Daboll and the Giants next year. So, before we get to our next topic, I have to talk about the Raiders. And the news coming out today, Deanna Rossini mentioning the Raiders are expected to cut Jimmy Garoppolo tomorrow. Kind of knew this was going to happen, I guess, with the signings of Gardner Minshew and who knows about Justin Fields. So to put it to you in terms of Burger McFarlane, the Raiders, when the Raiders cut Jimmy Garoppolo tomorrow, he won't be the starting quarterback for the Raiders in 2024, allegedly. Back to you guys. I can say, hey, I'm finally good with that. He just never seemed to work there. It was never going to work, and it didn't even last past one season. And I'm just so pissed off that this happened. In the first place, the signing. I just knew he was injury prone, and 2 games in, he's gone, basically. He did make a comeback, but it was too late for him. Is that true, Isaiah? The Vikings are interested in Jimmy G?
Yeah, they are one of the teams listed
Oh, boy.
in Diana Rossini's article. Diana Rossini says even though they got Sam Darnold, they still could pursue another quarterback to compete with Sam Darnold for the starting job.
Yikes. So, yeah, that's my thought on this. I'll start with John. How long did you think Jimmy G was going to be quarterback for the Raiders, and how did you think it was going to go? I know the yeah, that makes sense. Isaiah's mentioning the Broncos are another team that could get in any team basically that has a quarterback opening, you would think. So, John, what do you think quickly about this Jimmy G signing, and then are you not surprised it only lasted this long?
Dude, I'm not surprised. Like, what the fuck do they think they were gonna get? I mean, how many teams has Jimmy G been on? Like, seriously, what did the Raiders think they were gonna get? You weren't gonna lead them to a playoff contention. You had Josh McDaniels as head coach. I don't know what you expect. To anyone that's shocked, clearly you have not watched football for the past 5-6 years, because this is not a surprise for me at all. Congrats, you're getting rid of Jimmy G, but y'all get Justin Fields. James, we're gonna hold a funeral for your fandom for the Raiders, and you can move on if you want.
Oh, I'm low as hell, but we'll see what happens. Isaiah, man, I didn't want your boy from San Francisco in the first place, and guess what? He came, signed a good deal for 3 years, and guess what? He didn't last past one. I'm, thank God, done with him, but we'll see what happens in the future with others. What did you think about his short time, Jimmy G, with the Raiders?
First of all, James, you didn't want one of my boys in San Fran with the Raiders. You ended up getting 2 because you got Jimmy G and you got Nick Mullins as well. So, as your Raiders quarterbacks,
Yay me!
What's that?
Yay me!
Oh no, you got 3 because you got Brian Hoyer too.
Oh hell no!
San Francisco.
They released him today or the other day as well.
Yeah, he got cut earlier the other day. But in terms of this move, I'm not surprised because once he got benched and they basically sat him out the rest of the year, like you knew this was coming. I think that actually came on the day after Josh McDaniels got fired, because I remember we did a watch party, right? We were doing a Rangers-Astros watch party, and I forgot who the Raiders were playing towards the end.
Detroit on Monday night.
That's right. Thank you. The Raiders were playing Detroit on a Monday night, and we did a watch party, we watched that game after the Rangers-Astros game, and I remember that there was a play, and you could see this back if you rewatch it, where Jimmy Garoppolo has a wide open Davante Adams. I mean, Davante Adams was so wide open, he could literally sit down on the field, have a picnic, and still catch the football. Like, that's how wide open he is. There was nobody 5 yards of him. That's how crazy open he was. And Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew him by 8 miles. That's how bad it was. And I remember all of our reactions, we were all just laughing at Jimmy G. We were just like, oh my God. And I know Davante Adams was so mad after that. He slammed his helmet down after that. But yeah, I mean that move right there, not surprising. I thought that, towards once he got benched, he was done with the Las Vegas Raiders. He was not coming back. And as far as destinations go, the Vikings, I guess, because O'Connell runs a Shanahan-style system, so maybe he wants to go back to that. Denver. The thing with Denver is I'm glad Denver got brought up, because the thing with Denver is Sean Payton, John, and James reminds me of John Gruden. He feels like he has a massive ego where you can see it right now. He goes into a team that was not a Super Bowl contender, but they have good enough pieces. And guess what? He wants to build the team in his image and craft the team like the Denver Saints. That's what he wants to do. And he thinks he's bigger than everybody in Denver. That's why he's chewing guys out publicly. He's got all the power. I think he's also got the personnel power as well, so he can make all the front office decisions. Sean Payton better win a Super Bowl or at least get to a Super Bowl in year 4 in Denver, because that's the only way that all of this is going to be worth it. If you don't win a Super Bowl by year 4 or 5, you are going to be done with the Denver Broncos. So, I just don't like what Sean Payton's doing. He's releasing all these good players. He's trading away all these good players. He's not getting good value back. I just don't think it's a good thing for the Denver Broncos. And I think that with Jimmy Garoppolo, if he gets there, he's going to be a bridge quarterback anyways. And Denver Broncos fans are going to just feel just absolute crap with him starting.
All right, so let's get to Justin Fields. We're going to talk about his saga as possible suitors continue to dwindle, but not according to one source. But, John, let me ask you first. Where do you think Justin Fields ends up? Do you think he stays a Bear and have competition with whomever they draft? Or do you think he gets traded and where?
He stays in Chicago and they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State.
That's what I want.
Because even let's say this is going to be the make it or break it year for him. Because I think regardless, even if he does tremendously well, he would have to go to the Super Bowl and win it to get in the same amount of money. But putting him and Harrison on the same roster, and I believe they played together, or at least at the same time at Ohio State. But putting them together, I think it'd be really, really interesting.
Yeah. Hey, man. Isaiah, let me ask you first. Where do you think he ends up? And then we'll get to the next topic after that with that tweet that somebody sent out.
So, Justin Fields, what did we say a couple of days ago? There was a report that came out that Justin Fields has less of a market than Drew Lock. And everybody was like, no, that's just the Bears trying to get a better deal. No, it wasn't. Justin Fields is a trash quarterback. The guy cannot throw. He's a bona fide scrub. And you know what? He's going to be a backup somewhere. But there's a lot. There's teams everywhere that's dwindling right now, even for backups. So I don't even know if he's going to get that opportunity. The thing with the Bears and Justin Fields is he's also a turnover machine, so that doesn't help. And you look at all these teams that could be suitors. Commanders got Marcus Mariota, Giants got Drew Lock, Seattle maybe. They like running quarterbacks. Maybe that could be a possibility, because I know Mike McDonald was vague when it came to Geno Smith's status moving forward. But there's really not a lot of options going for maybe the Patriots. If they don't want to draft a quarterback, they want Marvin Harrison, they could trade and take a flyer on Justin Fields. But I think he's going to stay in Chicago. I think there's no really much suitors out there unless the Bears release him, and they want value back. So I think he's going to stay in Chicago for one more year, like you guys mentioned. And I think that, like John mentioned, I think they're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think they're going to do Caleb Williams. I just feel like Caleb is too much of a head case, and I just don't think the Bears want that.
I hope so. Now, do you have the tweet up here, Isaiah? We got to talk about this. So Sam Block had a tweet yesterday, or on X, he had a post.
What a dumbass tweet.
The teams that Justin Fields can go to today and clearly be the best QB on the team: Bears, Browns, 49ers, Steelers, Buccaneers, Giants, Seahawks, Panthers, Saints, Titans, Raiders, Commanders, Patriots, Broncos, Vikings. And he said you can argue more. Oh my God. Okay, Isaiah, let's start off with you. This is your tweet here, and one of your teams somehow is mentioned in this. This is obviously just what would it be? Just a homered pick here. Somebody has favoritism toward Justin Fields or his camp. I could definitely see this. But Sam Block just absolutely going wild here. What do you think?
First of all, Sam, I love you, bro. You know you're my guy. You might come to the Bay Area sometime in the summer, so you know what? You're still welcome to come, my friend, even though you put out this absolute baloney of a tweet. Um, Sam, I love you, but dude, you gotta get drug tested, man. I know we've debated before, but you gotta get drug tested for this, man. Like, you went to Ohio State, okay? I get that. You went to Ohio State. You watched Justin Fields play his best ball there, but Justin Fields is a bona fide scrub. This dude cannot throw the football, dude. He either airmails it or he underthrows the football, and he throws a ton of interceptions. Justin Fields also cannot process. You look at his career, in his entire career in the NFL, 60% completion percentage, 6,674 yards, 40 touchdowns, and just 30 interceptions. Those numbers line up with what Mac Jones had there in New England, and Mac Jones and Matt Patricia, not a legit offensive coach. And now, like, I'll let John and James just get through the rest of this list, because I mean, some of the teams out there, I mean, the Bears, I think definitely he would be their best quarterback. The Browns, I mean, Deshaun, like, I don't really trust him. He can't throw. Russell Wilson's definitely better than Justin Fields. Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, yeah, Drew Lock. Seattle he makes some good points with Seattle. Carolina, better than Bryce Young. Yeah, Bryce Young sucks. And then you look down this list. I mean, the biggest issue that I have, and I'll let John and James go through the rest of this list, but the only massive issue that I have is San Francisco. Really, you're putting Brock Purdy below Justin Fields. Let me tell you Brock Purdy's numbers, Sam. Brock Purdy, 2 years with the Niners. 2 years with the Niners. Keep in mind, this is a seventh-round pick, last pick of the draft. 69.4% completion percentage last year, 4,280 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Brock Purdy, both in touchdown passes and also yards completed and also interception thrown, Brock Purdy was ranked in the top 5 in each quarterback, and this is his first full year starting. Justin Fields has never even sniffed those numbers. So for you to put him ahead of Brock Purdy, it's absolutely ludicrous, man. Brock is a better processor. Brock is a better thrower of the football, and guess what? You can run around all you want, but at the end of the day, in the NFL, throwing wins games. You have to be a solid passer in order to win in the NFL, which Justin Fields is not. And I guarantee you right now, if you put Justin Fields via trade, Brock Purdy on the trade market, Brock Purdy would have 30 suitors. Justin Fields maybe would have 1 or 2, and it would be for backups, dude. Like, I love you, dude. You're my guy. You know that. But to put Justin Fields ahead of Brock Purdy is absolutely ludicrous, man. I could go on and on, but that's ludicrous. Purdy's doing stuff in year 1, first full year, that Justin Fields in year 4 still hasn't sniffed yet. So, Sam, I completely disagree with you for this. Take the Niners off. Plus, they just went to the Super Bowl, and you could argue that in the playoffs and for most of the season, like, Brock Purdy actually was a big part of that. It's not like Brock Purdy got carried. Brock Purdy was actually a big part of that reason why they went to the Super Bowl. So, I vehemently disagree with my guy right here that the Niners, number 3 on the list, get out of here.
I can see maybe half of these teams for Justin Fields, but definitely not the Niners. Steelers, you take off the list. Buccaneers, you take off the list. Cleveland, you take off the list. Even Seattle, they look to be going with Geno. Panthers, they're with Bryce Young. Let's see who else. And then everybody else is either going to trade for guys or draft some draft some quarterbacks. I'm just stunned at the amount of teams here. John, what's your reaction to Sam Block's post?
I'm ready for this.
This is the stupidest tweet since Skip Bayless said that Johnny Manziel is going to be bigger than LeBron James in Cleveland. Because I've never seen a guy so biased as a sports fan. This is just pure bias. This is the stupidest sports tweet I've seen since that Skip Bayless tweet. I mean, him and Skip Bayless should do a show of how delusional they are with their sports takes. The Bears, I mean, well, yeah, no kidding. He's on the Bears. Like, no kidding. But if let's say Joe Flacco is on that team, not at all. The Niners, Not at all. The Steelers with Russell Wilson? Not at all. The Bucks? Not at all. Giants? Well, yeah, because there's no Daniel Jones. Well, congrats. You get a participation trophy award for that one. Seahawks, Geno, I would still say no because, again, Fields hasn't shown anything yet. Panthers, okay, fine. Saints, no. I think Derek Carr still is a much better player than a guy who can't throw the football. Titans, well, yeah, they have literally no quarterback. Raiders, with Minshew, I would say no. Commanders, sure. So I would say maybe a quarter of this list, but this just screams bias. Again, this is the dumbest tweet since Skip Bayless said, and we quote, Johnny Manziel will be bigger than LeBron James in Cleveland. This is the dumbest tweet I have seen in the past 10 years, and it just screams bias, and there's no logic to it. If you put me 1-1 against him on a sports take, I would eat him alive because this makes no sense. It's pure bias.
Yeah, you could definitely see that. That was good to learn that he was an Ohio State guy because now we could see where this all came from. It's again absolutely ridiculous. Let's just move on. Now, unfortunately, we're going to talk about another Buckeye, Chase Young. He is to visit the Tennessee Titans, the Carolina Panthers, and the New Orleans Saints. I think he's running out of options here for winners. It's funny because I think I mentioned a while back that I think he'll go to the Panthers just as a punishment for not really hustling out there in that NFC Championship game. And guess what? I got a chance here, so I'm gonna stick with it and hope. John, let me start off with you because you've seen players, with high upside, they get hurt or they don't have the drive like they used to and showed on the field where they kind of get lackadaisical or don't really hustle on the play. And sometimes they show what they can have. I'll tell you, what do you think about Chase Young's rest of his career? And then where do you see him going in this free agency?
I mean, to me, again, Texans 100%, I think, is to me the best option for Chase Young. But to me, outside the fit for Houston, this is not a surprise because this is a guy who, while is very similar to Joey Bosa, very talented and could be the best in his position and when staying healthy. But the fact is, the Commanders drafted him with the second overall pick in 2020. No quarterback, no offensive line. Terry McLaurin has been your best player since RG3 in 2012 for that 1 year when they went to the divisional round. They won a division. He's a very talented guy, just like Bosa, but there's a reason why. They're probably listening to offers for him. But I think with the type of defense they're trying to build in Houston, I think he's a great fit there. But to me, Houston has got to be that guy because I think Houston's going to continue to look at decent defensive players in free agency and look at the offensive line in the draft. Best fit is Houston, but again, he's not a bust. But he reminds me a little bit, James, of Jadeveon Clowney. He has shown some flashes here and there. They're really talented. Could be the best in his position, if not a top 5 player in the league. But again, not his own fault, but can't stay healthy. And I'm afraid, unfortunately, we may not see the full potential of him.
That's perfect because I think I said that to Isaiah yesterday about Chase Young, and the comp was Jadeveon Clowney. Just about career projection, being drafted high, and now kind of being spread around, not being thought of as a pillar for a franchise. Isaiah, I'll talk to you right now about Chase Young. All right, so how many years do you think he has left, and then will he keep bouncing around? And then who do you think he's going to go to? Either the Titans, Panthers, or Saints here?
I mean, this is not unexpected because with the way that he played last year, taking plays off, Kyle Shanahan called him out publicly about that. Even the Commanders were very afraid. I mean, they knew that he was taking plays off, like he wasn't going to try some of the plays. teams were very, very, very wary of him. And I think that I'm not surprised given that, he's been injured a lot. He doesn't try a lot on the field. There's talks that he's kind of like a cancer in the locker room as well. So I'm not surprised that he's only going to get like a 1 year, like cheap deal. If I'm the Niners, I wouldn't mind having him back just because if you look at what we have right now in our defensive line, like it's okay. Leonard Floyd was a great signing. Matos is all right. But Jordan Elliott, I mean, he was one of the worst run defenders in the NFL last year. Like, it's good to have solid bodies around. So I would definitely take him back. If it's like a 1 year, $5 million deal, I would. But in terms of like the teams that are, interested, the Titans, the Saints, the Panthers, I could see Carolina just because John, Carolina's going to overpay. If they get him, he's going to get.
That's why I picked him. That's why I picked that destination. I think they're going to be the one to overpay him.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're going to be the one to overpay him. The Saints, they don't have a lot of money, but I mean they did lose Marcus Davenport, so maybe you just sign him to replace him. And then in terms of the Titans, you don't know what they're doing because they're losing players, but they're also signing some players, and you're just like, okay, I think they're rebuilding as well. So he's going to be on a rebuild team that is only going to give him like a cheap 1 year prove it deal, and then he's going to try to cash it in next season with a big year. But maybe this humbles him. Maybe this really does, because I know he went so high in the draft that he was like super cocky and he had such attitude issues. And you know what? I like Chase Young, but he needs to bring that motor every single play and play like it's his last play. So I'm not surprised by his free agency. I do think that if he doesn't change his attitude, he's going to keep bouncing around. But maybe this is an opportunity for him to get humble.
You would hope so. All right, so let's get to our day 2 winners and losers. For me, my winner are the Houston Texans. They get Hunter, they get Mixon, they address both sides of the ball here, and they might not be done. Who knows? But for day 2, I think it's Houston as the winner. Day 1, I definitely saw Philadelphia as the winner of day 1. You get Saquon Barkley, you help the defense there. For the losers for both days, I have just one for each. The Dallas Cowboys. They haven't done anything. They haven't cleared space. Michael Gallup will possibly go for not much, or he's been released. It's just not working out for Dallas right now. The looming contract extensions for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Or did CD already get paid? I forgot. Isaiah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just about Dak Prescott. I think that's kind of holding up things because he's going into his final season. His brother, I forget his name, Tad, I think, Prescott, was saying on X, he said the Philadelphia Eagles are the best running franchise around, a shot toward the Dallas Cowboys. He said that earlier today, not helping things in that situation. I'll go to you, John. Who's your winners and losers in free agency so far from the first 2 days?
To me, a winner in day 1 is not the Eagles. Again, it's kind of like Apple every year when they announce the new phone. Oh, it looks like it'd really be nice. But again, at the end of the day, it's nice. It's interesting. It's like having Derrick Henry in Baltimore. Sounds interesting. But to me, a winner overall, I would say Houston, and one that looks like a winner, but it won't help in the end, again, is the Eagles and Ravens. And the losers, I would have to say, is the Cowboys, because this is what you freaking dumbasses deserve. You want to re-sign potentially Dak Prescott to another deal. You let Tony Pollard go. You let Michael Gallup go, and supposedly that was going to give you at least $20 to $30 million, and you still do nothing. We know Jerry is a narcissist, but my gosh, don't be such an idiot. You had a chance to sign somebody. Again, this is not a shot, James and Isaiah. This happens every single year. Dallas does nothing in free agency. and it's not a shocker. They're the loser for day 1 and 2, and it's hilarious. But I guess Christmas came early.
All right, Isaiah, who's your biggest winners and losers from the first 2 days of NFL free agency?
So let's start off with the winners. The winners of free agency, you got to go with the running back class because running backs have not gotten paid and they were bitching about it for so many years. And they even formed like a committee last year to try to protest it. Well, they finally got paid this upcoming this free agency. I mean, Saquon got a lot of money. Austin Eckler got a lot of money. Derrick Henry got paid. I mean, they all got paid. So really happy for the running backs out there. Hopefully this starts a trend. And then in terms of the teams, like for winners, I would probably say, obviously you guys know the biggest one for me, and that is I put this out there. The Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers have transformed themselves into Super Bowl contenders with their acquisitions. I really love what they did. I think it's a great move. Their defense is going to be just crazy good. The offense, George Pickens took a step up last year. He looked like a stud, and now you have a quarterback that can actually throw it deep in Russell Wilson and get him the ball. So I love that acquisition. And then, I'm trying to think of other winners. I mean, the Eagles, they have gotten up a lot. They've gotten like a little bit better, even though they got to fix that offensive line. I would say Drew Lock is a big winner because you finally get a starting quarterback job. This is your last opportunity after you've been wasted on the bench for many, many years. Now you get an opportunity. Show the world if you're going to be a franchise quarterback or not. So he gets a starting job. It's only a cheap 1 year, $5 million deal. So I would say he's a winner. And then the last winner I have, James, it's not a team. It is players. Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, because they finally have a quarterback who's going to get them the football. Yes, the contract's bad. It's massive. But guess what? The Atlanta Falcons, they have all these great offensive weapons. They didn't know how to utilize it. They didn't have a quarterback that can get the ball to the weapons. And now Atlanta is going to be the NFC South champion next season. So those are my winners. Did we go losers yet or not yet?
No, do both.
Okay, so losers. I gotta agree with you guys. Cowboys, because the Cowboys are in just so much turmoil right now. I mean, when are they not? What's funny is James and John. There's all this stuff going on, like Dak Prescott's brothers making comments about how the Eagles are better run. Jerry Jones last week at the Combine said an extension for Dak Prescott is not important, and he was talking so highly of Trey Lance. So I can see Trey Lance potentially take it over there in Dallas because apparently Jerry views him very, very highly there. So Cowboys, you lost Tony Pollard. You didn't get Saquon. You didn't even get Derrick Henry. You didn't get any running back. So, and you're a team that loves to run the football. So, oh man, Dak Prescott being forced to throw the football 40, 50 times next year. Good luck, because he's turned the football over a lot. My Niners, because we haven't addressed our biggest need. We address needs that aren't really needs. We go out there and sign Leonard Floyd, great signing, but then you get 2 other defensive linemen that are okay, but that's not your need. Where's the offensive lineman? Where's the 3 offensive linemen to protect Brock Purdy? I swear, if they don't sign at least 2 or 3 offensive linemen in free agency or even draft a couple of guys, I will go on a massive rant because we were a Chris Jones being blocked away from winning a Super Bowl. Like, that's how close we came. And you don't learn your lesson. Every year we always do this. We always get bitten in the butt because we can't protect the quarterback, or we can't run the football because our offensive line stinks, or our secondary gets beat deep. Every year we do the same thing. Never invest in the offensive line, never invest in the secondary, and it always bites us in the butt. And instead, we always invest in the defensive line, and it's just utterly ridiculous. And then the last loser is the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings have turned into the land of washed-up toys, and I don't know what they're doing in Minnesota. It's so confusing. Justin Jefferson, I would not be shocked if he gets traded this offseason.
Yeah, that can happen. All right, so let's get into any final thoughts. But before we do that, do you have any announcements, Isaiah, for the network?
Yeah, so the couple announcements I do have for the network is number one, and this is very, very exciting. We don't have an exact date yet for this, but remember how Trevor Williams and I did a show called No BS in the afternoons? Well, that is coming back. I've gotten confirmation from my co-host Trevor that that's going to be coming back, and it's going to be right here on both the MI6 Sports Network and the IM6 Network. It will be streamed to both platforms, so get ready because the Power 5 is coming back. I cannot wait for that. I think it's going to happen sometime. It's going to be weekday, but we don't know what day exactly. We're still trying to plan that out, but it's definitely going to come back. And then in terms of other announcements, we're not going to be doing a free agency spectacle tomorrow because I have something going on at night, so we'll probably have to save that for another show, maybe kicking it with Cruz. We are doing an MLB preview show, I think either next week or the week after, because we're trying or to preview the upcoming baseball season. And then I'm thinking about a March Madness show as well, James, so we can preview, maybe do a watch party, who knows, because we've got a bunch of games going on. But yeah, man, it's going to be fun, and we got a lot of exciting programs coming up.
All right, so let's get to our final thoughts. Hey, good to be back here with people, and good to see John again, and Isaiah. You know what it is. John, your final thoughts.
Like I said, I was happy to be here doing some podcasts with y'all again, and you're very lucky. I can't scream because it's what time is it right now here in Texas? It is 1:30 in the morning. My uncle and mom are sleeping, so you didn't get my full rant. I wanted to, but if we do another one of these, I'll do it in my car so I can do a rant. But happy to be here. Bengals, you're dumb. Just get a new head coach.
All right, Isaiah, your final thoughts and end the show.
Yeah. Wait, James, do you have any final thoughts before I wrap it up?
I said them already. I was good having John back, and for you, you know what it is.
All right, yeah, I concur. It definitely was great having John back. We may get John back another time for another show, depending on his schedule, because I know he is very busy. But No BS is coming back. We're trying to aim for next month, so keep that in mind. And then the final thought that I have is that Michigan, do not fire Juwan Howard. Just like my name says it. Do not fire him. That man is a great
This
coach.
is an NFL show.
That's a life for your program, and do not fire him. You'll be making the worst mistake in your program. But I just had to get that out there. But and then in terms of NFL, Niners get offensive linemen. Plain and simple. So that is my final thoughts for the show. You guys have any other last things you guys got? Like any programs you guys want to announce before we call it a night?
The Niners should re-sign Mike McGlinchey to a 7-year deal. I'm teasing you, dude.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought it happened. I thought we got breaking news on the air.
Nothing would happen this late, I don't think. Hey, yo, just check me out on CTC, and Halos in the Infield. That's all.
And we have a comment from Murtaza, says, "Hey Isaiah, how's it going? It's good. We had a great show tonight, and thanks for checking out the show. Very light, and go Lakers. But yeah, it's been a great show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you guys another time here on our NFL draft or NFL free agency spectacle day 2. We are gonna have a draft show coming up in April, so make sure you guys tune in for that. But for Isaiah, John, and James, we out for the night. We'll see you guys some other time. Have a great night, everybody.